Soon as we step on the mic, man, you notice the difference. Heavenly blessed with the melanin, baby, you know that we winning. No time for the long talk, got 120 on the clock. Wednesday 8 through 10, all the bad vibes better stop. Cause you gotta come with that energy. Casual convos, baby, come down and just sit with me. Lil' CoCo be spitting that remedy. Casual convos, baby, come down and just sit with me. You better take this shit serious. She dropping knowledge on head and it's free for the play. Tap in right now if you curious. We got the ham radio going lit every age. We go from people to family to pilots. Stay with me if you got something to say. You know it's important if we go acknowledge. Speak on the business and get out the way. What you gonna say about my mama? She winning, you rockhead.
Welcome to the Casual Convo show with me, CoCo, where we have conversations about topics that affect the community's personal and business relationships. We always have the casual convo, so you don't have to have the tough convo. With me tonight, my co-host Tajah, and we had a special guest, Jon Jon. Yeah, I made it.
How's everybody?
Hello. And all right. So, what was your day like today? Mine was terrible.
Oh, dang, I'm sorry to hear that. My day was all right.
I said I worked all day today and it was a little hectic. That's all.
I see you same over here, but hey, I'm blessed to come out there and be working. So some people are in different situations.
True. So tonight we're gonna be talking about influences, like how important are influences in your life, whether negative, positive. So kind of like the last show, we touched on a whole bunch of stuff, and it kind of opened up the door for this one, as far as influences, like do's and don'ts of different things like that. So I figured we can have it. So it's good to have a young male perspective. So I thank you for coming and talking about that. So I think since you're the guest, I'm gonna start with you. So if a brief summary, if you could open it up, like how important do you think having an influence in your life, no matter what the influence is? Like if you could describe the topic, how would you describe it?
Pretty much, it is very important. It is because just like your first influence is usually supposed to be your father, your mother, and how they really guide you to either to help you with success and also possibly issues that you might have find out later through your times. That's what I would say probably most important, I would say.
Okay. Tajah.
I'm answering the question.
Yeah, same thing.
I would say influences are probably the most important thing as well in your life. But not really like the most, but it's like up there with other things. Mainly because like, you know, depending on who influences your life, that depends on your style, how you work, how you live, basically everything, just how you make certain decisions, all based on who you actually influence.
Okay. Y'all don't want me to answer, right?
No, we do. You always try to skip the question.
You don't want me to answer, do you? No.
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear you.
So I think of, I guess, being the elder of the conversation. So this is actually going to be good. I think, as far as life goes, when we talk about things that influence our life, it could be anything. I look at it as anything around us in our environment, our community, whether it's people, things that happen, different events that take place. It kind of shape us and form us into how we move through life. Mm-hmm. But you did touch on something for us, like your family, your parents, things like that, because those are your first influences from a child whether it be a good experience or bad experience, because everybody's experience with their family is different. But the things that happen and trickle throughout your life, it can influence you to how you think, how you decide, how you move, your reaction, your response to things like that. So we're going to touch on a little bit of everything from personal to even down when it comes to entertainment, social media. We're going to combine them all because I think a lot of times today in the mindset of thinking, we forget about all of those other avenues that really, we don't really understand what really influenced us to behave and act the way that we do, if that's a good way to say it. Mm-hmm. All right. So life influences. I went to my local Google. I always got to start with that to give us perspective. It says influences that create internal shift in a person's mindset. So we always talk about what people go through and how it makes you think a certain way and behave a certain way. Like you could be one way, let's say 2 days ago, and say something happened today and you like, you know what, X, Y, and Z, and it may change your whole, whether for the good or for the bad. Because some people who have a negative mindset is usually something that happened at some point in their time that influenced their decision. So we're gonna go into that. And then it's like when we talk about people and how you talk about parents, those are the people that influence not only our behaviors, but to think before we do certain actions. Like when you little and you go by the stove and they be like, that's something that starts to influence, okay, when you see the stove, it's hot. So your behavior changed, but your mind also thinks into, this is going to hurt me. You get what I mean? So it'd be little things like that we miss, but it really matters. So you said family, right?
Yes.
Why do you think family is the most, well, not saying most important, but one of the important influences in life?
Well, that has usually a lot of the times where you're really trying to develop. Sometimes your development, you didn't really know what you're going to think somewhat of your culture, how you go throughout your days, how you interact. That's all set up through your parents. They automatically set that tone. If we're going to come up here, the way we communicate, or how my relationship is with my parents, they set that. You can't, because a kid cannot come up there, or a baby, whatever. They can't lead it. They can't guide it. Why? Because one, they're not in charge. Two, they only know so much.
Right. And
because I'm like, luckily I was blessed to have both of my parents and my family. But I know if I actually didn't have, say, my father in my life, I know I'll be a very bitter young man. And I'll probably have possibly some issues with my trying to keep control of my emotions. So
can you elaborate on that? I'm a little bit for me. Like, so, because I'm it's a little bit off, I'm sorry. I've mentioned that before. And as a young man, and we all talk about experiences and things like that. So for a person, everybody, like you said, you were blessed to have both. Everybody don't have that. So in what ways do you think it would have been different if you didn't have like both your mom and your dad as influences in your life? Just that dynamic alone, because I think that's a powerful dynamic to have both parents, but everybody is not, as fortunate to have both parents active in their life.
So I know from my father, it's like some things. My mother, she can raise me, and of course doing as much as she could, even if she was by herself, because she actually did make a decent money. I was a little bit more stubborn and more so wanted to do by myself, do what I wanted to do. So trying to control me when I get older, it would have been way harder on her plate. Then on top of that, being a man, you have to now, of course, you have to know how to control your emotions. You can't, like, though you can, they're not saying you can't express them, but it's just like, you can't come up there and just lash out. Like if I come up here I have a girlfriend, if she does something I don't like, I can't just come up there, just start spazzing out on her or just start breaking stuff. Like, no, I have to control myself. I have to come up here, learn how to communicate and settle myself down, how to relax myself and really take control of that. Cause I can't come up there and just lash out, especially, life will, if you acting like that with the police, you can either end up shot dead, or you're in prison.
Right.
So
right.
that was on my father's side. My mother, I would probably say she made me have to come up here and like, it's like one of those times you gotta learn how to really be kind of like soft. You have to come up there, be kind, gentle. Though she can be, she would be sometimes hard on me on certain things, but she really wanted me to teach me how to be correct sometimes in the world. So I really would say nurturing me up to be someone that really could, I can say, fit, like, she really nurtured
She
me
showed
up
you
to
the
be
softer
more
side,
strong.
so to speak.
Like
So do you think you got a good balance from both ways?
Yes.
So if I'm okay, that makes sense.
Yes, because
I only ask because I'm a product, even in my age. I didn't have both. So I always, when you said it, I could relate to that dynamic. You get what I mean? So as a female, with like an absent father or certain things, I think it did influence certain things because you tend to, I don't want to say fantasize about what it would be like. You get what I mean? And then you will see people that may come from those backgrounds of both parents or whatever. So the influence is different because when you learn how to be tough, so to speak, from all women, it gets a little janky, so to speak. You get what I mean? The same way I felt like my brother, God rest his soul, like even with his father not being there, we would have conversation. It was like that, that something is missing. Mm-hmm. And even as a female, that something is missing from your dad, because your mom can teach you how to be a woman if she knows. You know what I'm saying? And then you have, okay, now what's going on? And then you may see a difference when you have friends or family that may come from that solid family foundation. It's a completely difference, and it's almost like, oh, jealous. I want that. But then, it comes with the good and the bad, I think, so to speak. That's why I was like, Dad, I would want to hear a young guy perspective on how that would influence your life decisions. You know what I mean? So it sounds like they did good. Because you got the balance of, I know how to be a man in this situation from a man, but then your mom was able to teach you, okay, but it's okay to be vulnerable and a little softer in these situations. That balance.
Yeah.
What you think?
About what? I'm confused where we at.
Right.
I'm just trying to follow. Yeah, no, I thought that's what we were talking about, but then you asked about his father.
Because he brought it up. That's what I said. How do you feel about that? Now back to the year.
Oh, so we're back here now?
Yeah, we back
Not
there.
about how I feel about folks?
She know, listen, let me tell you something. She know we go, oh, why we gotta do this every show?
I'm just trying to make sure we on the topic of
every time.
Panties.
Okay, but how often do I go? Everybody, okay.
I know,
everybody knows.
I went to clarify if we was here or if we was there because I didn't know which one
we
was
wherever
at.
you want to be there.
I don't know. But if we talk about this right here, yeah, family, they definitely influence. They're the foundation. Pretty much they're the foundation of who you are. So, like when you think about it, like everybody said, like as a baby, you don't know right from wrong or anything like that unless your parents or your family is there to show you, to guide you, to understand that. So, yeah, family, that's a big portion. Like you learn like pretty much your fight or flight right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What
about friends?
They could be good or bad influences. You never know in life nowadays because they could be good at first and then turn bad, and then they could be bad and then turn good. You never know sometimes. They could be both in different situations and scenarios. Friends are iffy with influences. Don't let them influence your life too much, but just enough.
I would say that's
You see, I got quiet. I had she go ahead.
Sorry, that was in my brain.
How would you say that?
What, that friends are like can be good and bad influences?
Mm-hmm.
Because so like you always say, you can't trust everybody. Everybody ain't your friend.
One question. I say
and so
you always bring me and I don't be trying to go there.
See, you see how I say family, the first influences in your life, family. You are family.
We on friends.
I know, but I'm just saying you influence that friend perspective. So you see how that worked out? It's a 2-for-1.
So,
thank you. You saved me.
Elaborating off of what Tajah said, I would say, first of all, since first it comes from your foundation of who you are and what you're supposed to, what you feel like is right and wrong, comes from your parents. Second, then you go out there and choose your friends. At this point in time, like we're grown, we're practically out of college. I'm pretty sure all of us here, we ain't got time to huh?
You in college now?
No, I'm not.
I'm
okay. Yeah. At this
point in time,
yeah. I never finished. So.
What college you went to?
I went to CC. I just went to a regular CCBC. I went to try
about CCBC. No, but that's good. I applaud you. I've been there. Look, I'm just finishing. It's been 2 years. It's all right.
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah. Like saying about that, like all of us at this point, we want the best for ourselves at this point. We ain't got really time to come up here and have knuckleheads around our way. I ain't got, like, if I come up here, if I'm seeing plenty of times my friends aren't really that good influences or anything, or I can see that their bad influences are definitely showing on me, I really don't think I should really have you as a friend. Because the thing is, when you got bad friends, they're like crabs. They'll pull you down. That's what they do.
See, I got a question. So you know how, like you say, like, you know, if you start to realize like their bad influences are rubbing off on you, like maybe you shouldn't be friends. So but what if you are too stuck in that moment to where it's just like, you just going with what your friends are doing? You know, like how, like, especially like, of course, the younger generation. Mm-hmm. Like when you're around that age, from like especially school age, like when you got friends that's doing something bad, especially like it could be something small like skipping class or something, you gonna do it too.
I had friends that skip school, and I didn't skip school. Like,
but I'm saying is, but most people,
were you the influencer or were you the follower? That's the thing.
I was.
Now when I did it by myself, because people told me. not to any children listening, don't skip school. It's not.
Yeah. It's but like the thing is, you that's why I said the foundation of where you come from first, it matters, because it's like if you come up here, you're following the wrong crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in a bad situation. You're following people that aren't good. You're having a problem identifying the good people from the bad people, or you're just like being in that moment of feeling good than knowing what is right. You should.
So, do you think they influence your decision making, or do they challenge it? All right. Let me elaborate a little bit from a different perspective. I think when you're younger, you're trying to figure it out, right? Even if it's like that elementary school age or whatever, you just like, hey, and be a friend. Da, 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 da. And I think that's where the family, it kind of all go together, where family influences decisions of who we want to be around, who we choose. And even though when you're young, it's like kind of that you want to be like. And then in some aspects, you have some children that are taught, they ain't got like you, da, 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 da. You just be who you know what I'm saying, who you are. And I think that breeds the leaders, the followers, and okay, we trying to figure it out. And I think that's when the family dynamic kind of goes in. But when it comes to friends, in life, sometimes your friends change. Never, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. Doesn't mean a good thing. You could be like, I'm still friends with somebody I was friends with since like pre-K to this day. And that's rare. Even though we don't talk all the time, all things like that. But when we catch up, it's like, that's my girl. So, but even through life with all of those changes, I've lost some friends, I've gained some great friends, but I think it's all in your thought process and what influences decisions. Because sometimes, like you said, okay, like you come from a certain family dynamic, but that influences how you think, how you make decisions, things like that. So let's say you and I were friends, and my family might not have been like that. I could have came from a one-parent home where the parent wasn't there. You get what I'm saying? Pretty much I was fending for myself mostly, or something like that. So my decision making and my mindset might be a little different from yours. So that's when we talk about the different influences of what's going on. And then you start saying like the peer pressure and all of those things when they say friends can influence certain decisions, you have to have that strong will to say, I'm not doing that. And then I forgot who was it. I think probably my youngest, and was like, I think my oldest was trying to get him to do something. He said, because mommy gonna get me mad. And I'm not, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, oh yeah, he know better. So I would know when he got in trouble, he was the leader of that. The same way when I did certain things, I'm like, I ain't going to that place. I'm gonna go whatever. So somebody like, I'm gonna go with you then. You know what I'm saying? So I just influenced this person to cut. You get what I'm, you see where I'm going with it? So it's kind of like, then you may be like, this is not the friend for me. Or when do you walk away? And so it's kind of like your friends can sway you to be, it all depends on where you are and how you think, but everything influences something. It can influence you to say, I don't want to be around these type of people. And as I got older, I started to learn what was cool was not right. Or what's considered as cool is not right.
I was honest.
Yes. I would say, to answer that first question that you originally said, I would say friends are there to really challenge your thinking. That's what it is. Because honestly, you get to, maybe as a kid, maybe more so your upbringing, but it's like we all know once when you get to a certain age, you know what's right from wrong. You know you're not supposed to be sitting up here skipping school or doing drugs or whatever you're doing. That's incorrect. But the thing is, you had the decision to say yes or no. If you come, basically, so if I say, like, now here's the difference. When you're a little kid, you don't really have thoughts. They come out here, they pouring everything into you, and you really don't have a choice. And mostly, if you don't do it, you getting your tail whooped mostly. So once so now what exactly. So now you're older. Now you're older, you're like, okay, I got these friends. Do I really want to do what they're doing, what I'm not doing? Because I grew up, I was a basketball player. I was usually with the popular kids. And a lot of popular kids didn't do me the best things.
Look, I always knew people, but I ain't really roll with a lot of people. I didn't look at the popularity thing like that, because sometimes depending, it be clowns and stuff and generic people that play sports, like all friends. And then you might got somebody who, I don't know. I like the little, what's that called? The ROTC people. No, I used to like the little steps.
No, I like the ones that didn't do what the ROTC people did.
I just used to like to see them step. Y'all didn't like to see them do the dances no more? They don't do that?
I don't remember any dances.
Don't they do that when they was in the band?
They marched.
They was marching, but they used to do the little what is it called? You know what I'm talking about. I just used to like to see that, so I thought that was cool. But I was like a geek.
Hey.
She be over me all the time, Rich. Rich said he out. But listen, they don't do that no more for real.
No.
We used to get pumped when they came out on the thing, because you knew they was getting ready to give like the what was it called? Oh, y'all too old. Y'all don't remember Never mind, I'm sorry. That was getting ready to take it back when that was back in the Public Enemy days, y'all.
Oh snap. Okay.
Okay, skip it. Go to the next question. Okay.
Teachers.
What about there you go. So good question. Teachers influence your decision. So if you have your family that's teaching you. Wait a minute, can I say one thing about the family and friends?
Sure.
Because what was it? I remember when I used to like mentor like younger people. I was probably in my mid to late 20s when I used to work at a certain place, and I would work with teenagers and young adults. So we were like certain kids influence because they have family, like how you said you had a positive family structure. But on the flip side, you have some kids that may be raised in a negative family structure, whereas though they're taught, some people will teach the street stuff. If for a cleaner way to saying it, before they teach, okay, this is, instead of trying to get, you know what I mean, do the opposite of that and not falling into the trap. Because if this is all they know, this is what they're teaching. Mm-hmm. And then I think, then I'm gonna go into the other part. But what y'all think about that?
I think
how does that influence?
Oh, that does a great influence on the kid. Sad to say, I would probably say they probably shouldn't have hooked up and had a baby. If you're going into certain things, that's not the best time to have a kid. If I'm going to come up here, if I'm selling dope and I could possibly be sent to jail or killed at any moment, mm-hmm. Why would I want to involve a kid and possibly my girlfriend in that? That's not good. At that point in time, you're selfish. You're very mm-hmm. selfish, because you can be harming more than just your own life at that point in time.
I agree. But again, we have influences when you see some people be like, they are their environment. Mm-hmm. And
a straight product.
I've seen throughout my experiences in life, where some people really don't know better. We assume because we may know better. We may be, like, okay, like for instance, you came from your family background, right? Let's say another person could have came from possibly the same in the way that you structure, but they were more so and living a certain lifestyle, but it wasn't so clean cut, so to speak. So they may have been in the streets, and we see it a lot today. Where so you see some people be like, "This is all I know," and then maybe all they were taught. But then when you around and this is all that you around, you send it starts to consume you until you either seek out difference, even though you know it's not right. But if you're constantly around something that's negative, one thing that I say today that I wish I would have done when I was younger is went outside of Baltimore more. Outside of and then sometimes when you are stuck in your environment, you can't see that it's a whole world out past that environment. So I always raise my kids like you never know a person's circumstance, and that's because I would see you can't judge you can't judge people only because you never know where they're coming from. The only thing you can try to do is treat them a little differently, but treat them fairly and maybe show them another thing. I was like that, like even coming from a family where I was raised by all women, I didn't understand certain family dynamics that when I started to see them in my late teenage years, I was like, oh, y'all do that? This for you happening for real? Because when you come from certain stuff and they try to shelter you from certain things. So I was smart. I knew certain stuff, but then I got in my little rebellious stuff because I'm like, it gotta be something ain't, I was still naive and stupid in other areas. I didn't have the balance. So when I started seeing other stuff, it was like a culture shock to me. Like, because my family was one way, and then I would come over here and I'm like, people be cussing, people do this. People really be cussing around people. Because I was like, you better not, because I was raised a certain way where my behaviors were, I didn't curse around my parents. I didn't, my mom, my grandmother, all of them, they never drank around us, things like that. So when I started meeting different people, I would go visit. Didn't know that. And it was really like, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Certain things influence, and that would be like, I was looked at like the little bougie one. And really, I didn't understand what was going on. I just know I ain't never seen that before. I was a little uncomfortable, but I was also like, this is interesting. You get what I'm saying? So certain things, when you don't know, it becomes a little attractive to you. But I think those experiences helped me understand. We're going to get to that later. But that's when we get into, if we go into the teacher thing. So when you take those two, and we see it in classrooms all the time, and now you got a teacher trying to teach an educational piece of influence to help you get sharper with your mind. But then now you got, let's say you as a child coming from this strong family unit, and then you may have another one that's just like, hurry up and get out of my house because I need my house to myself for the day. You have those parents that use schools as like babysitter schools, which you said is not right. They might not, but we can't say it's no test to say, or a pamphlet or a booklet or a guide to say how to raise children, or are you fit to be a parent?
That's a fact.
And everybody's not taught safe sex. And I can say that from experience too. It might be going far left, but for a long time, I was like, I thought when you got your cycle, I thought I was pregnant. So can you imagine me as in school, young, like crying hysterically? It took a friend or somebody that, you know what I mean? Not saying, not at the time she wasn't a friend, was like, girl, no. And then I had to talk to my grandmother. She was like, what is wrong with you? No baby. And I started early. So just imagine, it's like those talks, that's what the influences can range different ways, and you just never know. So it's like sometimes you don't know who going to shape it for the next part. So I would watch like the Cosby Show when they would talk about it, and I'm like, the ocean. I thought I couldn't swim or do none of that stuff. So I was kind of happy that they did lower the grade or the age when they started having those talks in school, because I started to learn certain things like about sex and everything else from school. But they did influence me to be different, because it was a lot I didn't know at a young age that I was like, when my kids ask me, I'm going to tell them, because you ain't ready to know that yet. So it could be different things that
and then you learn it and you didn't know nothing about it and you did it the wrong way and now you got the repercussions.
True. Yes and no. It's not always bad though. I would say everything in my life influenced me to be how I am today, and I'm still being influenced even at my age. I always say with age and sometimes situation in life is a learning experience. Everything is a learning experience. When you think you got it figured out, you don't. It's going to throw you another curveball. In a way, I'm glad I went through certain things because I probably wouldn't be the way that I am today. I probably would only see, you ever see somebody who always got something to say as far as like, I don't know why, because they can't, they only see from their lens and their peripheral vision. They can't see nothing any other way. They're not open-minded. They're more closed-minded. I think for me, experiences influenced me to think outside the box, and I try to put myself in other people's shoes. Yeah, I'm very teachable. I learn every day, one day. That's how I got to how I am. If I wasn't, I would be still doing some stuff I was doing back in the day. But that's what I mean. Certain things, it influences you to think a certain way, and it curves your mindset and your behaviors. When I was doing certain stuff, I was smoking, I was doing this. Those were the influences that I was around. I was sleeping good. I was eating the way I was supposed. You get what I'm saying? So it was like at that time I liked it. Then when I started to, when my kids was like getting older, I started having children. Hey, my youngest son, I was like, this, you know what I mean? My kids changed me. So different things influence your mindset and I started working in different places, meeting different people. And even going through those ropes, I came across some great people who taught me and showed me, don't do it like that. Do it like this. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I gotta do it like that. I think we all have a naive in a moment where we think we know it all and you don't know nothing. But on the flip side, they were able to see, hey, she really don't know. And sometimes you can think a person is knowledgeable or something or know something and don't. And I tell people all the time, I don't know everything at all. It could be something I could learn from everybody. Yo, like I've used every situation as a time where you just get something and it influences you to look at things differently, move a little bit differently, watch what you're doing. Why maybe watch what you say. You know what I mean? So everything happened for a reason. That's just how I look at it.
That's true. Yeah, because like you say, you want to learn definitely. I feel like a lot of people should more so debate than more so argue or just try to state your point. A lot of people come up there and try to say, oh, it's this way, like the sky is blue because I don't know, because of H2O going up. It's like, no, it's because of this way, but it's just like, okay, at the end of the day, y'all should be able to come to a point where what is actually the correct thing to do. You want to come up here and start changing some of the notions, like, so like honestly, like I would say even growing up in our culture, like what we say, I know is a lot of different things between our culture and maybe some other cultures. I looked at Japan before. I like watching anime. I don't know if y'all do too, but
yeah.
Exactly. But you notice in a lot of their films, a lot of the cooler kids are the ones that are smart, that get the best grades, that are really working to make themselves the best.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure all of us can agree. We look back at school, all the cool kids were the knuckleheads up there sitting out in the hallway. Wasn't really like, you're like thinking, wow, it's fun to be around you now, but I can't imagine you years later down the road.
Can I tell you what that looked like?
Sure.
a mess. I've seen people who were like, oh my God, they were like Mr. and Mrs. the it factor.
Mm-hmm.
You see them now, not all, but in some cases, they look like they had a whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were, and then some people try to be cool, or they want that popularity in a place where they lack of somewhere. You get, that's a whole nother subject. But they want to be the influencer to be like them, so people won't see them for who they really are, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, that's why I said sometimes now in my life, as I went older, it wasn't about the cool people, but the ones who were considered the nerds, the geeks. They the cool people later down in life, because it's like, okay, now we're thinking different, we're moving a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
We're not aging the way that they're aging. You get what I'm saying? Or you just see some, and it's like that because they wasn't putting effort into their grades or anything like that. It's like they stuck trying to figure out life now.
Mm-hmm.
But long as they had that popularity, they were cool.
You want to know what the first thing I thought of when I saw teachers? Them counselors in school.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are like, you know which ones I'm talking about. Them counselors, they latch on. It's like they pick out that one student that's always in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, little Johnny, how are you today? Yes, they be like, you're not going to be in my office today, are you? It's like, shut up. But it's just like, but you can tell they was really trying to change lives. Like they was trying to really be some type of influence to them because they helped them with schoolwork and everything. They wanted to change their life.
That's
so serious.
It's true. Because honestly, teachers are very important. They're very important. But
they help with your decision making.
How you get help with your decision making?
Like for us teachers,
I feel like some teachers, they can influence you, like career wise, like anything. They can influence you like personal life wise, but mainly they help you. But mainly I see it like far as like career wise, like trying to figure out degree wise. Like I've had I would say one of my most influential teachers was one of my Avid teachers, because like he really influenced me to like embrace writing more. Like he embraced me to like write more. He actually encouraged me to want to go to college because at one point I was like, forget college, that ain't for me. I ain't going. I don't like school. But he was like, no, like you have like a certain thing about you. And it only took one conversation, but he made like a huge difference, like far as college wise and career wise, what I wanted to do.
You know what teachers, and I'm about to say now, stuck out to me that I don't remember none of my teachers but two. And that was my 4th and 5th grade teacher, Miss Cherry and Mr. Thomas. I swear to God, rest their souls. Miss Cherry, they just hit different. Like Mr. Thomas was strict, and I think probably because I ain't had that over.
Was either one of them an English teacher?
No, Mr. Thomas was my math teacher. He put me in the ACE program because he said I was smart. I just had to get away from that table. So he moved me, and I had to sit next to him. And that was embarrassing. But when I think back, he did the right thing because I would get caught up in the talking, and I was the one everybody cheated off of.
At least you listen,
or stuff. Not all the time. I'm not gonna say it all the time. I went through. I might do a show one day. I went through some stuff. I'm telling you, I can write a book. Miss Cherry was like, she ain't play, but she made sure you got it. Even when we left Rosemont Elementary and we were in middle school, it was a group of us, we would always go back and go see Miss Cherry and Mr. Thomas. And when I tell you, I had seen that lady, I don't even want to tell my age, it was a store called like Woolworth. Me and my grandmother was there, and I ran into Miss Cherry, and I was a little older, but she came and she was like, how you been? Da-da-da-da. She still was like a stickler. But it was kind of like they were also, even though we thought they were like yelling at us, they were actually like grooming us for the next phase and what they didn't want to see us doing. And we would see other like teenagers in high school come and talk to them. And I was like, they've been teaching for this long, they old. You know, because when you see teenagers and you in like the 4th, 5th grade coming to see them and they giving them hugs, and we looking at them like, they mean it. Why y'all like them? But it was crazy because they would stick to us. And I'm like, I remember you used to always tell me X, Y, and Z, but like, and they would keep moving my seats. And I could, you know, people keep talking and stuff like that. And I was like talking because I don't want to be rude. And my son be like, move the whole little desk. I was sitting there like this, looking stupid. But I've gotten one of the best math programs ever. And that helped me out so much. But they always would give jewels. And that stuck out to me. It was more so like you could tell a kid about the kids.
Right.
Whether you was bad or not, even the baddest kids, they never gave up on.
Mm-hmm. I love those teachers.
Yeah. So what about you? How do you think they influence your decision making?
What teachers influence my decision making?
How do you think, not just yours?
I was about to say, the way you said it was my decision making. I was about to say they didn't really change it much. I didn't really like listening to teachers, so I had a problem with authority at that age.
What age was that?
I actually remember quite a bit of my teachers.
Oh yeah, you just saved us. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember actually quite a bit of my teachers. I remember, a lot from elementary. I remember quite a bit from middle school, high school, also even college. And what I noticed a lot of times, the ones that really try to challenge me or better me, because when I was growing up, I sucked at English. I found out my English was so bad, apparently in elementary, I was literally in a program to help me do better in my English, because my English really was garbage. Like, like I ended up struggling with that probably, of course, like most of my life. But luckily, once I got in later parts of high school and also college, I was able to succeed in it. One big factor was my mother. She pushed me real hard, and I really valued it. I really valued that. And well, of course, when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want my summer vacation. What she talking about? I don't want to be listening to phonics. But she was like, nah, you're gonna do this and you're gonna get better at your English. And that helped me so much. And now a lot of the teachers that I seem to really like, that I found out, are the ones that were the ones that they push me. Like if it was math, English, social studies, like they come up here when you actually get those good things, when you hear good things, it really does help. Like even if they come up there, yo, you acting like a knucklehead, but I know you're a very bright student. You're not stupid. You're intelligent, but you're letting a lot of people mess you up. That makes a huge difference on you. Then when they come, if you have a teacher, when they come up there and say something just negative about you, you're like, dang, what I deserve that for?
And you like some of those ones where you see it like on a I even know some people that experience the way they had teachers that tell them, oh, they're gonna be in jail and this is and a third. That's a whole negative influence, because it's like your program and think this is all they got to look forward to, when instead of curving them a different way. And I think sometimes people don't understand. I don't care what nobody's saying. They be like, oh, it's just words. It's just this. It's just that. No, words sometimes cut deeper than you physically doing something to me, because certain things stick with you in your mental. You get what I mean? And I hate when people be like, oh, well, you gotta don't pay. You don't know how often or what experiences this person had, and this has been said to them in this situation, that situation. That starts to consume you. Those words become a person's reality. And most people, I'm quite sure y'all see it, and they be like, yeah, because that's all they told me I was going to do. And then it's kind of like they don't even understand you can prove people wrong. Right. Because this has been embedded in your brain so much of negativity. some people don't even, so when somebody or something positive comes, it don't seem realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where negative influences become really crazy. And we're gonna get into the other stuff.
Actually, they actually had a study where they had two plants. Both of them got nourished the same way. They got good soil, they got good water, all that. So what they tried to do is for one plant, they was going to talk very nice to it. Oh, you're so beautiful. Go strong, go big, you're good. And then the other one, you ain't worth crap. You're a crappy plant. You're terrible. You're da da da. And honestly, the one that was talked negative about died. While the other plant ended up growing up to be, it became a nice plant. So it's words, how I view words, of course, that goes in more in my religion. It was like, I view them as spirits, man. Those, they really cut deep. You really, like, if you come up here, you tell a kid, you ain't going to be nothing, you ain't going to be nothing, that child will remember that. And there's right. Honestly, most likely, they will end up being what you said. Sad to say. It's when you have to separate, when you come out there, you separate that person from that, then you might see you can see a change if you come out there and put them in a better environment. So it definitely, it's a big notion if you have a lot of negativity around you. It can affect you greatly.
I couldn't see with that. Wait a minute. Rich said, pause. What did you say, Rich? He always be making me read. Oh, wait a minute. He said a whole lot. He said, people can say whatever about you and to you. You just can't agree with what is being said. Okay, I agree. If you agree with what is said, then you become what is said.
Yeah, that's like the negative.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up the whole thing.
That's like that negative talk thing, though.
It is, but on I'm trying to think of how to say it. I agree because a person who has been, if we say influenced, if we want to use that word the correct way, and you see the both sides and you have that security within yourself, right? Try saying that to a child who may be influenced by a negative environment at home, outside, and then let's say who are supposed to be the positive influences in their life are constantly being fed negativity. You get what I mean? How can you say, I can't listen to this? If this is what you hear, you ever see when people like, badass kids, badass kids, badass kids, badass kids. You hate your badass kid at home. You go to school, you're a badass kid. You go outside to your local Walmart grocery store, you get our badass kids. And then you get, so when somebody comes and tells you after you done heard all of this negative stuff every day, all day. And so what you're doing, yeah, I agree with you, Rich. What I'm just saying is, if you have this from a person from a developing, we're always developed. So
maybe we do our company.
Okay, I know I'm gonna run into this. I'm gonna give you an example. I worked in pediatrics for a long time. And that's why I say things, situations, and my work experience and life experiences, it helped me look at things a different way. Whereas though I agree with Rich because that's how I think now, right? We all agree. So to the child that's coming in at 4 and 5, and you can see certain things being said, the man talked to a certain way, even the child may behave a certain way. So then you see them again and you're there and you're working with them and they're constantly being told this. And when certain questions are asked during the visit, or you see them again during this point in time, and everything is negative because that's all that that's been embedded into them.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I mentor and I will meet certain people and from their childhood and they would say, this is what I know. This is what they tell me I am. So, and I could tell them, but you got so much, I could see that you draw, right? Some people don't understand how amazing of a talent that is because you know how creative you gotta be to master that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, kids in the streets, I was working with them, they was like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Me being positive to them made them very uncomfortable. Just a compliment. Mm-hmm. So can you imagine somebody complimenting something that you're great at? Because people only harbor on the negatives about you and feed it to you that this is who you are. Nothing is great about you. I don't even know why it's hard to change that mindset when it's been embedded since a child. Mm-hmm. So even though they come from a messed up background, it's hard to change it. So now what you have is a trickling effect, and we see it every day now. If you talk to some kids that commit certain things or do certain things that's messed up in the community, try just sitting down and talking to them. And that's one thing we don't do. We don't listen to what we would say an issue. Mm-hmm. But we gotta fix those things and see how we can do it. And now most of them will be like, nothing. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. That's the mindset. And that's it's weird and it's messed up. But that's some people's reality. And we can't negate that. Mm-hmm. We can't overlook that and tell them what they should do. Now the thing is, how do we influence it? Because when we get into the other part, we're gonna talk about other influences around when you don't have parents around. You got social media, the media, TV, mm-hmm. bulletin boards, all kind, everything around us influences any action or mindset that we may have. So you said the colors.
Yeah, all the way down to colors.
You got 3 minutes. Please explain that.
Oh. You were saying like TV, social media, billboards. The first thing I thought of was advertisement. And the way that advertisement works is they use certain colors to influence how people think. So if you realize with a lot of drive, like, those places that drive through, the mm-hmm. main colors that they use are red and yellow. Mm-hmm. Red and yellow, when people see red and yellow, they get hungry. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said colors, they make a huge difference on like how people think as well. Because like if you see yellow, you're gonna think happy thoughts. You're gonna think positivity. Like just really think about it.
See, see black. I know I'm old. I'd be thinking yellow is like cautious.
Like yellow, happy. Like
what make me hungry?
Word association.
It ain't the red or green. It'd be the green for me.
I don't know about that because honestly, I will say. Because my girl, she does art and she actually going through school for all of it. She actually says every color has pretty much more so a meaning, and it's associated with something that will help mm-hmm. symbolize. Like if you think of wet, you're going to think of water, or if you're thinking something mm-hmm. dark, you would think also black, possibly even red sometimes. So it's mm-hmm. she's definitely not wrong about that. The colors really put an impact on all of that. They're smart.
Right. So we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break and we're gonna come back. And I think we're gonna get more into like the media influences and all of that good stuff. Welcome back to the Casual Convo show with me, CoCo, and my co-host Tajah. Hi. And a special guest, Mr. Jon Jon, who's Amaze Balls. Mm-hmm. Are you having fun?
I am. I'm enjoying myself. Thank you for having me.
So, anytime. So we talked about influence as far as like family, friends, teachers, bad kids, good kids. question for both of y'all, since y'all a little younger, and always come through with the old head perspective. So y'all say. So when it comes to the media, how much of an influence do you think the media have as an influence on the mindset and behaviors of people in general?
This social media has all the influence on
Not
mindset.
just social media. We're talking about social media,
media
TV,
in general.
media in general.
Media in general has a huge influence on people.
Like, yeah.
Elaborate, please.
So, like, literally everybody, like, whatever you see on TV is what you kind of want to be. It's like what they show in the media is like a bunch of fantasy stuff. Like, oh, this is what you can have. Like, oh, this is what you can look like, or you could look like. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, oh, if you had this, it could be this. So it's like, then you're like, oh, I need that. Or you
like
just
the burgers.
Yeah, like burgers. I was thinking more like skincare. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because like I started thinking, like, I saw this one skincare serum and I was like, oh, I gotta have it.
I can agree. And then I later in life I realized all of that stuff don't be for our skin and our stuff and our things. So I think I'm glad that now through like social media and different, especially I want to say social media, because more people from our communities who have products or make products that work for us was able to get their products out there. So when you said that, I think social media had a positive influence on should we say the Black dollar?
The what?
Black dollar. Black business.
There you go.
I would say media has made itself able to have some of the biggest influence. I would honestly, media practically, I would say it probably goes even almost deeper than even your friends, because a lot of them, the media has touched on them since they was probably kids. It's always been around. Like certain narrative, it really grooms people to what they accept, what is differently. Like even I would say a big one is probably homosexuality. When they was back in the day, they used to treat homosexuals very bad, very bad. I heard people getting beat up on a regular. Now it's almost like I hear some people like it's like the popular trend. Like that's what they want to do. That's like that. They wish they didn't even do that. So it's like it has a very big influence. Media, I would probably say it has to be probably one of the biggest ones we have as an influence. It can be good, it can be bad. If you say something that people don't like on media, you cancel. You're off. It's done. Your career could possibly be done.
That's me.
But people get canceled 4 or 5 times. It's not even like an actual thing. Like you can be canceled over and over again.
I think that's where my generation calls it the sensitivity, because certain things are said now that people try to do, that cancel culture was not a thing for us in media. But what I will say when it comes to the media, from what I've seen coming up to this young, beautiful age that I am now, it is if I go into television, we had shows like like let's just say like the Huxtables, A Different World, things like that, where you had that's my show. But even before we get to Martin, certain shows that will portray certain positive images. Why you look at me?
I'm listening.
They would portray certain positive images. I've noticed the positivity of certain things that we had back then now is you don't really see those images no more of like family, of support, of togetherness. You get what I mean? Whereas though, even I always say, even down to not Lil McGruff the crime dog, Officer Friendlies. You know, we would have like commercials and things like that of, you know, clean your neighborhoods, do certain things. We had what, Baltimore, the city that reads, that was like everywhere. You know, everybody wanted you to sit on the bench, you read a book. You know, so certain things are like not even there. So coming from the age of them, I saw certain positive things and I seen the transition to some negatives where certain things, even down to if I want, I just got all over the place. As far as commercial wise, when I was younger, there were not a lot of commercials where you would see different ethnicities or different cultural backgrounds on one commercial, whether it was for makeup or whatever. We always had images of what didn't look like us, or what was supposed to be beautiful, or was deemed, even today still, was deemed as beautiful. It's a little bit flexible, but not quite. It depends on the depiction and the product. But I think it definitely influences what's acceptable. So what about, I'm gonna ask you, music.
Music? Oh, it's pretty. Because when I was growing up, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent still was in his prime. Then of course you had Drake and all them. Like a lot of they pushed a lot of agendas. Even while you looking at even how the music videos, like I would say how now how someone dressed were a lot more revealing. I would say hip hop, they came up there, they introduced that. I would say also like how it used to be cool to come up there and be a thug. They had that. And now it's kind of changed somewhat. Like they're like a lot of them like doing drugs now, but it's music.
Do you think it has a negative or positive influence? Like from, okay, even how old are you, if I may ask?
I'm 24.
Okay, so how do you think music has, how much of an influence do you think music has on your generation? And is it positive or negative?
I think music has a lot of influence on our people nowadays. I will say it will depend on who you listen to, but there's many negative people listening to. Like even I was a big Dwayne Carter fan growing up, but I listen to it now. A lot of it is it's negative. Like the notion was sex, money, weed. That's a lot of it all it was. And it's
do you
just
think people listen to that and do it?
I disagree.
Lil Wayne had one song that actually was positive, and that
like,
was
how do you think that influenced behaviors?
I would say it. Luckily, it didn't influence minds, but I will say it can have some. I don't know how big an influence it had on some people's behaviors, but I'm pretty sure it had to influence quite a bit because I mean, what he was a blood, he was doing all that. It was like a lot of, I mean, if you're not told, oh, this ain't the right thing to do, and you don't know that.
Rich said he said it made.
Huh?
It made Rich. You might talk because I'm you going too fast.
He pretty much just said
he said it made people like it made people drink lean,
and a lot
of people died from it. Also, even further than that, I'm gonna just chime in real quick because if we want to talk about hip hop, this is where the older generation and the younger generation usually clash.
Yes.
I remember when house parties was really house parties, like, and hip hop was like bumping. But we had artists like KRS-One, Public Enemy, Queen Latifah. I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine who's actually on the show when we did music, Idris, and we really talked about this, how we had so many, it was a positive thing when rap started. Like, it was a message of unity, unification. You learned something from something. Even down to like children's stories, Slick Rick, you know, all of these people. So for a long time, we had positive messages. We were like strong. It was strength. We would rap things that made something. It made sense. It was something positive. And so, you know, you had a medallion, you had your little thing. You wanted to be Queen Latifah with the little, you know, with the joint on. So, but now, and it was like, we had Moni Love. So certain things were positive. And then to see that, and then you see the transition, then when they started calling it like gangster rap and different things, when they started to shift into different cultures, you started to see, okay, now we talking about smoke weed, we talking about drugs, it was sex, and the images of the women changed. Different things like that. So then it kind of got away from the narrative of positivity, but then you kind of seen that being pushed to the side. Whereas though we were influenced in a different way. So when you hear older people say sometimes the music has a huge influence on our mind, because we listen to music just about in everything you do. Listen to music in the car. You listen to music while you work. You listen to music while you clean. You listen to music. Especially to us in our culture, music is life. You get what I mean? And you live through your music. So if you push this, and like you said, everybody wanted to come on and be tough and be gangster and this is that and the third, and it became cool. So this was a cool thing to do. This thing be like when we was looking at ourselves like kings and queens and wanted to be like the next Queen Latifah, the next KRS-One, or somebody like that. Now you got another dynamic. You get what I mean? And it's not about respecting your women or doing this or doing that. So the mindset started to change. The behavior started to change. How we dress. So even when you say how you was dressed, so now you have the alleged hip hop. I don't consider it that, because when you got people in dresses, I look at it like you probably more alternative or pop, because that's not hip hop. And so now you have a culture. No offense to anybody, the man bags and you know the dresses and things like that. It's like, who's who? Those are influences. So now it's cool. Would you go out and like buy a full dress?
Talk about me.
I do like dresses. That's what they be doing. I'm just saying, that's the influence that I seen. And then it's like, if I was to play or let y'all hear one of the songs from back in the day, you would see that first thing you're like, it's your phone, because it's positive. You get what I mean? Certain things influence certain things, where so it almost feel like negativity and anything that will tear down our communities is being pushed. And anything that's being positive to uplift is looked at as, ain't nobody doing that. It's overlooked. Even on social media, post something positive and then post something raunchy or something like that. You see the difference.
That's a fact. Actually,
you get what I mean? Even,
I actually remember a time I watched a YouTuber. He his name was Rico the Giant, and he put a bunch of people to be like, "Hey man, draw a picture of me, okay?" And the people who did the best work, that did great, had the lowest likes while all the people that made fun of him, like, they had like a terrible picture. It was ugly. They had the most likes.
Mhm.
So it really showed.
Speaking of,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No,
Like,
go ahead. I want you to finish.
Basically, I was just going to say, it really shows how much negativity has actually impacted. It has an impact. In fact, they said, as far as negative, like we're hardwired to remember the bad stuff. You remember it probably 10 times harder than what you remember of good. Like I had, my mom was that person who came up there. I could have all A's and I had that one D. And she focused on the D.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get it. I think even when it comes to social media influences, that kills me because it seems like anybody can be an influencer. I think we talked about that on a recent thing, but there's one that I do follow. I kind of like his message, Gary Vee, because he can take a negative thought, and I think when we all thinking like I can't do this, and when you're like at your lowest and you feel like giving up, his messages are so powerful. That's when you go and you just go full throttle, and it's pretty much like he does like this motivational thing, and most of his stuff when you hear him, and he's like really raw with it. So it's kind of like, damn, I just had that, you know what I mean? I just had that thought. And then when you see the feedback and to see somebody who actually is positive, his delivery is raw, but it's a good thing because it's kind of like, yeah, let me just get up and just do this real quick because he ain't about to sit up here and I ain't gonna be these people, you know what I mean? So it kind of pushes you to want to do better and be better. So that's like a great thing. But some of these other ones, it almost look at when you said how the negative impact. It almost seemed like everything that's negative is glorified though, or like this is the way it's supposed to be. And if it's something positive or human or humane, whichever word you want to put it in there, y'all know I can't. At a certain point, I get. But it's like once they do that, it's what do you do? So if most of the influences are negative or like you said, like half negative images or things like that, when you see somebody that's respectful, why aren't they considered influencers? Those are the people that get the least amount of love. You don't hear too much about them. That's not glorified.
Unless they funny.
But it shouldn't be in positive, shouldn't even be a joke. You know what I mean? That should be something that's taken, seriously.
yeah.
Even like with this, for instance, like say this show, even what you saying, how your mom and your family dynamic, even when it came down to like English and speaking what you speak very well, might I add, that's something positive. You get what I'm saying? Somebody may be like, oh, that's boring. This is that and the third. I even had people who be like, oh, that's ain't nobody going. That's boring. But you have those people who get it. You get what I mean? Even though it's not intensified in a way that is because it's not negative.
Yeah.
And that just baffles me a lot. A lot of the times, how everything. I try to tell myself I don't want everything ratchet. I don't, you know what I mean? Or just this and the third. We got to deem ourselves in a different light. And that's the influence that we should start seeing. Mm-hmm. But we don't see, especially for our young men, such as yourself. And that's why I always try to reach out. Like, they'll give me ideas, but be like, I ain't gonna go in there. And I'm like, why? Mostly because you don't want nobody to see you being positive. Not you per se, but you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, but that's a good thing because that could motivate the next person. Like you just being here today, somebody could hear you and be like, damn, I'm up next. Like, you know what I mean? So that's to me, that's the world. That's everything.
It's a fact. But it's at this point we push negativity has been pushed for years. Like, I mean, even though some people say, oh, I mean, R&B ain't the same way. Well, when we came up there listening to good R&B, it went from love to just sex, and now it's just casual sex. That's all you hearing about. And even still, that like it's been going that way for a long time, that now people are accustomed. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be a huge change. We just got slightly move it that way, where so since negativity selling, okay, all right, we're gonna keep on moving that way. We're gonna keep pushing it. And the thing is, as long as we keep on buying and having negativity run, it's not going to get better, because at this point, negativity sells.
Question for both of y'all. So what do you think, with that being said, what you said, what suggestions or what do you think would be a good way to, what would be a good influencer of positivity? Like, how would you to like overshadow that? Whereas though something positive is cool and should be like, this is it.
I feel like the main thing is that, like, you see now that like people like really connect with the most on any media is when somebody is like, just be you, be yourself, be genuine. So like, as long as like, if it's about you being exactly who you are and living in your truths and understanding yourself and, you know, growing as your own individual into better, a lot of people have been on that. Like, that's been like a good trend. I like.
I actually would say a lot of times getting these kids into like I was Rex activities outside the school or in school, because when I came up there and I was playing basketball and I was good at it. I was doing okay. I got to a point where I was in high school and I like money. I know everybody like money, but I really like money too. So it was to a point I was like, I knew some guys that I could probably start selling weed if I wanted to start selling. And my homeboy was like, you don't need to be doing this, bro. What are you doing? Yeah, at that point. And the thing is, also, even the basketball, I had to be doing good to make sure I can actually play. So, like, some people treat, a lot of times they have treated sports as the main agenda. No, you got that backwards. Not all of us are gonna go pro. Not most of us aren't gonna go pro. So you have to make sure they correct those behaviors. You come up here, okay. So when he gets out of school, make sure he has good grades. So that's not the only option he has when he goes. Because if they come up here and think, oh, I play basketball, that's the only option I have. No, that shouldn't be your only option. You should be able to have grades.
If you had if somebody gave you the task or asked, hey, we want to change the narrative of that type of influence. So, like you said with basketball, and you came across somebody who was like, I'm just gonna go to the NBA, like how most, people do. I'm going to the NBA, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. A lot of people don't understand you got overseas stuff, you got, it's different avenues, but you always have a backup plan, right? So to that person that doesn't have a backup plan and just has that one thing, how would you influence them? Because when we talk about influences, we talk about behaviors, mindsets. how would you change or try to change or influence the mindset to think, okay, yeah, you can possibly go here, but if this is not, what's your next plan? How would you influence that child or teenager?
I would probably say, so I'm going to try this analogy. For a child that most kids, you come up here, they like candy, correct? As a kid, you like candy. You go into a candy shop, you like having the options to pick between Hershey's, Skittles, Reese's Puffs. Like you like all those options, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you ain't gotta come up here and just say.
Now laters my favorite.
Oh, now laters, I like now laters too. Sour Patch Kids, all that.
Right.
But every time I go to a candy shop, I don't want Sour Patch Kids. I don't always want Hershey's. And when it comes to life, some of those doors, you run out. They don't make that no more. So instead, you want to have your options to be able to do whatever you want. Because when you only got one thing, you're a slave to that one thing. You come up here, like even people that have my father said he had one job, he hated it. He hated doing it. But he knew a lot. Luckily, he said he got his financial straight. But a lot of people get stuck in that one job. They get cool money, but they hate it and they can't leave it because they ain't got nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have to be able to. You want to have the choice to do whatever you want. And honestly, I feel like for you to be the best you can be, you will want to do something that you want to do. Because I'm not about to put in the extra work to do something I hate. What?
Right.
Oh. So that's something that needs to get preached because a lot of kids, some kids, they be like, oh, you only know selling drugs. Okay, we need to start showing a different option. We like, all right, kids, I understand. A lot of kids honestly don't even like school. Okay, I understand you don't like school, but get the basics. So now, okay, all right, y'all can start going into trades then. If that's the case, if you don't like school, there's way more options. Because when I was even growing up, they only pushed like college. So
right,
those influences, a lot of those really can make a difference. Just having the options to do other things. And a lot of people wish they really just had different options. So
I would like to see those options being an influence because I think a lot of people don't know. I say that a lot because my thing is because I've been that person who people thought I knew and I didn't. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing that used to bother me when people be like, "But you know," and I'm like, I don't. You know what I mean? But that's you do. And I genuinely didn't know. And there's some things that I'm still learning like today. So I hate when people be like, they know better or they know. I've been that person. So I try not to think a person knows better. I will go through the explaining. And I think that's the thing that kind of would be better or change is to influence people and put it out there that these are other options. You know what I mean? Or to the younger generations, like you said, we want to use the basketball thing. Take a group of basketball players and be like, let's just say from different places. You know how like, what is it called? Like the tournaments that they do? And you put them all in the room. Everybody ain't gonna go to the NBA. You get what I'm saying? So what's some other things you want to do? What's some other options you may have? Once you start to keep putting that out there, like this is it. And like you said, a lot of people don't know about trade schools or different things like that. They don't understand. Some people, all they hear is school and get turned off. You know what I mean? I understand it. But then it's kind of like, all right, what you want to do? I don't know. Well, just try some different things until you figure it out. That's my thing. But until you start trying to, and you got to explore yourself to figure out what it is your knack is. And that's usually how I talk to younger people. Like, all right, let's figure it out. And some people really don't know what they like, and they don't know where to start. So when I look at influences, I look at whether it's positive or negative, depending on the mindset. You can say, I don't want to do that, or that don't seem right. What influenced that decision? Sometimes when you have a lot of positive in one ear, when that negative hits you, you know it's not right. Even though you may try it, that can change something in you for positive. How often do we see, like, let's just say you might see somebody that's sold or was in street life for a long time, and they be like, it changed their life around. You get what I mean? That negative turned positive. It could have been an experience that they had that was like, oh, this is not it. Let me let me do something else. And then now that person can influence some people, and they like, oh, now this person out here trying to preach to us when they was out here doing this. That's experience talking though, because they see they don't want you to go down that path. And if I go back to the parents and the family, sometimes we look at our parents and older people in our community, or people that have been in certain walks of life. Yeah, we may know that about them, but we also may know what comes along with that. And sometimes we can try to steer you away, even though we might not be successful all the time. But even with mine, sometimes I say you gotta go through it, because sometimes I can't save you, and that's okay. But I ain't gonna let you fall here first. Now, if I gotta really, you just gonna be mad at me because I see where this is about to go. You'll thank me later. You get what I mean? But everybody don't have that person to, influence it. So sometimes the negative can influence the positive, depending on the strength of the mindset of the person. But who builds a strong mind? Because I used to be my mindset was, and I was just like, okay, all right, okay, sure, I'll do it. Okay. I was that person. And it took me being like that to be like, oh, you got me twisted. I'm not doing that. You get what I mean? I had to go through those things. So I think sometimes you can go through some trials and tribulations and get the wisdom and the experience. And I think that's when Rich say, are you teachable? Because we don't know everything. And one thing I've learned is when people go through things, you can tell people who go through things, they got a different type of wisdom. They got a different type of sense. And I like to talk to those people because I know I probably got a whole lot of experience. And I know not to judge a book by its cover. People get me messed up all the time. They think one way and you will have no clue of what I've been. You get what I mean? Just because I don't wear it on my sleeve, it doesn't mean anything. But the same way, I think the younger generation can also influence, or should be influencing us to do better. Because somewhere along the line, we dropped the ball also with teaching and influencing in a positive way of certain decision making and thought processes. It could be made a little bit easier, but then some of y'all figured it out and learned from our mistakes.
Definitely. I definitely would say, yeah, because it's honestly the most important thing is knowledge. It's knowledge.
Right.
Nobody. If you could get $1 million, or you get the knowledge to make $1 million, what would you rather have? So
I would rather have the knowledge. Because if I had $1 million and I wasn't smart, I'm gonna do something stupid and I ain't gonna have it no more.
Yeah, a bunch of people that blow
But I think also a lot of things influence.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, and that comes with not having certain level of influences of knowledge around you, and people trying to, you know, sometimes it's just because when you never have something, you don't know how to act when you get it. You know, so just $1 billion sitting in your lap, all you know is I can buy a lot of stuff. You get what I mean? If you was a person who didn't know about investing, flipping, or never wanted to do anything business wise or investing in a business, that's not the first thing gonna be on your mind because you wasn't knowledgeable at it. But I got a question.
Oh,
I got a question. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Did you think about it? You should know it. Okay. Do you consider yourself like an influencer or a person who can or could not influence a group of people or a person? Why or why not? Whoever want to go first. Okay.
Would you want to go first, Sage, or you want me to go?
I mean, I can. I don't care.
Since it sounds like you was kind of took it off guard, I got you. I would say hands down, regardless of what you know, who you are, you have an influence on people. So I would say for myself, I would like to say I have a good influence. I try to make sure the people I keep around me are good influences, because negativity is very negative, can easily lurk into that and honestly overcome. So it's like you gotta make sure be positive and really just try to better yourself. Don't, if you try to stay stagnant and all that, you're going to be small. You're going to be very small, and you're going to think so little of yourself. If you open your mind, you have to, that way you can be broad and you can be the best you can really be. I would like to think I'm positive, but I'll probably have to say that would have to be determined by the people I hang around or any person that really interacts with me.
I like that answer. Yeah. It's on you. So what you?
Okay.
Tell me side me every time.
Because I would say I consider myself an influencer because, like, you know, we said, like, well, we all know I have a child. I feel like I've influenced her every day of the week, no matter what it is, because, like, she looks up to me, and a lot of people will say that she acts like me often as well. So it's like I influence every aspect of her life, especially with decision making, choices to make throughout the day, how to handle herself. I would say, in that sense, I'm a positive influencer. I think I'm a positive influencer all the way around. I'm an influence to everybody. You know what? Because I feel like I influence my friends. I be influencing my family. I be just out here influencing. You feel me? I be positive. Everybody be like, it's good energy.
Why do you always wake up in the last 20 minutes?
Because I was like, I couldn't think of nothing else, but I was just like, you know what? I'm a good energy. I'm a good vibe. And people be influenced by that. And they just be like, yeah, Tajah.
Don't mix up good vibe and good energy. I mean, it being a good positive.
I'm both.
Can you explain that?
Being a good
can you explain that?
Huh?
Yeah, no, I want you to explain that part, please.
I got you. So good vibes, like you can go to a party and get flat out drunk. That's all good vibes. But is that really the good thing to do? Especially you drove there, and that's not the positive, being positive. Good vibes is just being happy, having a good time and all that. It doesn't really always have to go into thinking of what would be a good influence. Having a good influence would be, oh, I'm coming up here, I'm making sure when I drive, I'm not going to be drunk and possibly do something stupid while on the road. So it's like we can't just always account for feelings. We have to account for our actions. That's what honestly
Okay.
actions are more.
I agree. Wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go.
Yes. Do you consider yourself an influencer? Why or why not?
Oh, that was a lot of fast.
No, I'm just asking the same question that you asked us.
That was a lot of tone.
Do you consider yourself an influencer?
Am I?
I mean, this is up to you to answer. This is self-reflection.
Ooh. I think I'm offended a little bit.
I'm just this is how you be asking questions. I got you. I'm being you. I'm being CoCo.
Don't do me like that. Like, I don't like that. Don't do me like, let me work on her. That's too much.
You want to answer the question?
Why y'all leave me with the most time?
I mean, I could keep going on about how I'm a good influence.
Let me go first, and I'll let you finish.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna Kanye you real quick. The answer I would give to the same question would be, in my life now, yes. In my past, no. I think I probably would have. No, I'm gonna take that back. In my past, I would not have liked to been an influencer because even though I'm still always a work in progress, I wasn't in a position where nobody needed to be influenced by me, if that makes sense. You know, because I was still trying to figure it out. And there was a lot of gray areas, green, unknowing. I wasn't always leading with my right frame of mind. So I would never want to influence that if I'm not in a position where as though I'm always the leader and not trying to figure it out. So I'm trying to see what's going on over here. So even when we're trying to figure out some stuff and you see something that's intriguing, you're following that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But today I would say yes, only because I do try to think outside the box. I try to look at different things. I try to look at things from different perspectives, only because I've been in so many different situations. So I think I can have an influence on based off of experience, things that I've seen. And I try to influence people by things that I've witnessed. You get what I mean? Or like, let's say for instance, if somebody say, oh, that, like, even I'm gonna just take my friends. They was like, I don't know that, I don't know either. And sometimes I'll be like, why are you listening to me on that one? But I can see where where it might make sense. But even though sometimes I might have went through something maybe 10 times worse than what they experienced. So sometimes that can influence them to be better. And I'm one of them type people. I want to motivate people. And for a long time, when people have expectations for you to always be one particular way, you never really have a motivator or a supporter. So I feel like part of influencing is also teaching and motivating people to do something, whether it's a positive or a negative. But my thing is I want to shift it to the positive because I didn't always have positive supporters and motivators, so to speak. You get what I mean? And I fell into certain things ways though they're not there now. So now, yes, I could influence someone to be positive. I'm not selfish in that way. And I think when a person to be an influencer, you can't be selfish with your knowledge, with your experience, with your trials and tribulations, because you can reach somebody and they can learn from that and say, I don't want to go through that. Mm-hmm. Or they can see the pain and the hurt of what you had to experience. And then sometimes people don't understand this way, going this way, as opposed to going this way. I already know what's on this side, but I see what's on this side too. Because if I'd have known better and had this influence in my life, I wouldn't have made those decisions. And that's why I say influences impact your decision making. I could see somebody get ready to do something stupid. I'm like, why are you gonna do that? Don't do that. But then it's also people gotta be receptive to the influence and open to it. And usually some people are, depending on how you are. And I'm more of a one-on-one type person. But I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna talk to anybody, but I'm not gonna judge you. That's one thing. You shouldn't just judge people because it's not you. You don't know what that person is walking through. So how can anybody influence you if they're going to judge you? If they're not going to motivate you and be empowering to you or tell you, I can't say this is what you need to do. I think an influencer guides you in certain directions, but it's up to you, the path, if you continue on this path and how you're going to take it. That's what I look at as an influencer. Social media influencers, no. I don't always go off of, because to me, what they was considered a social media, I don't see what the influence is. For most part, I ain't gonna say all of them, but some. But you have some people that's labeled as social media influencers, and I'm like, don't be doing that. That's worth, being an influencer. So I would like to be influential, especially within my community of togetherness and unity, because I know what that looks like. If you don't know what it looks like, it's hard to imagine. But when you know what it's looked like and what it could be, you want to put in the work. And part of this is me putting in the work. Because somebody's gonna say it, somebody gonna say something, and teach one, reach one, teach one.
I think
one of them, or y'all know what I'm talking about. That part. That's how I look at it.
I got a question. So, what would you say if you was able to change something, a type of influence? What influence would you change to make the biggest change within our community?
What would I change in our communities?
How we communicate with each other. That would be my top one.
But in order to change communication, you got to get to the home base. I think the one thing I would change is definitely how we learn and what we learn. And I think what's missing, and while a lot of us don't have like financial stability or different types of stability, it's because it's not taught. And if you don't know, you can't teach it. It's coming up now. But I would change, in order to change communication, you got to get to the source, which is your older people, but that's generations of teaching communication. So I would definitely start in the school systems with the young people, but I would also put back recreation centers that's free, mentor programs that do positive things, just giving back more, and just to bring back that unity. But I would definitely change our education. I would change getting back to cleaning our neighborhoods and taking pride in our neighborhoods. We don't take pride in our neighborhoods anymore. When the last time you seen somebody sweep outside that wasn't outdoors?
You ain't even trying to stay outside too long.
Exactly, because right, but that's things that we used to do. So that would be the first part, and just you got to change certain things to get the crime to stop. And you got to start with the youth. Sometimes you got to change their mindset first, because it's harder to change an older person. As Rich would say, everybody is not teachable, but children are very teachable because they're still learning. Their brain's still developing and growing.
Oh, they're very.
So I would definitely start with that.
If I had to say, I would say the main thing is I really would have to say our family dynamic. We come up here, we talk about our community, Black people, we're not union. We don't come together. Well,
Mm-hmm.
our families don't even come together. How you expect us to come together as a whole if the people that's supposed to be the closest to you, we having issues there.
Talk.
It's so it's like, and like you said, that influenced the kid right off the rip. You saying, like I heard you even talk. Pretty much every person I heard that didn't grow up with their father or their mother, they were missing something, and it led them to a disadvantage in our life. You come up here when you have those disadvantages in your life that you don't see a lot of the other people having. You don't see Asians coming up. A lot of Asians come up here. Oh, they're having all these issues. You don't see that because a lot of those are right off the rip. You're young. You don't want to have problems of coming up young. That's when it's supposed to be the easiest. So it's something that will be the biggest impacts on some of these kids that I feel like if we really wanted unity, if we wanted also to have if we wanted to bring back our community and also having better kids, it would really just be having our families completed and having a healthy relationship. They being able to see that, because I mean, I will say, again, some people a benefit of the doubt. Some of them suck being together. Hey,
Right.
but I will say, I don't think you should have a kid.
I agree. And that was a great way to close us out. I completely agree.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Hope you come back. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm sorry, Rich, I went over. See you later.
See you.